bring the meeting to order and take attendance. Bill Byer. Corey.
Here.
Nikki.
She just hopped on.
Here.
Hi, Nikki. Jack.
Here.
Steve.
Here.
Russ.
Here.
Myrna.
Right here.
Jess.
Here.
Matt.
Here.
Eileen. Here. For those of you who haven't met, I'm Matt. This is Matt Panaro. He's our newest member, although he has been following us because he was so interested in. I won't make a comment about had nothing better to do, but
I mean, you're not wrong.
But I'm glad he did because it meant that when we needed to go get another member of our committee, we had somebody who was actually up to speed and ready to rock and roll. So I'm glad you're here. Let's see. We have no members of the public, so I guess there is no public comment. Minutes. So I have a couple of edits that were made to the minutes that I received. One is in the fourth item, subcommittee updates. On the third paragraph, it said there was a discussion on the content of the postcard. Mr. Kelly made a motion to accept the content of the postcard with suggested amendments. That's what we added.
As amended, yeah.
And to mail the postcard to all households subject to the available funds. Ms. Sutherland seconded. So that was one. The second is in number 5, second paragraph, where Mr. Kleckner explained the differences between town administrator and town manager. He said there's no legal distinction between the two titles. The roles functions depend only on, so that what we added was between the two titles and the roles functions, which is a clarification, I guess, which he did. And the third is that Ms. Sutherland made the motion to adjourn and Ms. Cadillac, not Mr., made the second into motion. So those are the 3 suggested changes. Is there anything else?
So we had a guest, although we didn't get his, well, maybe you got his name.
Oh, it was Mark. I forget his last name because with that.
Mark Schmucker?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Okay. I will put him in.
Town meeting member precinct 7.
Yeah, I'm precinct 7.
Oh, different mark.
Oh, no,
No.
we have a guest now.
Different mark.
Is that what you were talking about?
Oh, no.
Oh,
it's
I
Roy.
thought you needed me to identify myself. Sorry.
What?
That's okay. Hi, Mark. Welcome.
Hi.
We do have
Hi,
public
Mark.
here. Mark Woods, Mark, is there anything you'd like to say that is not on our agenda for tonight?
No, I'm just listening.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Mark is chairman of the capital budget.
Right. Thank you. Okay, so back to the minutes. Those are the proposed amendments to the minutes. Are there any others? No? Okay. And then
Motion to accept minutes as amended.
Second.
I guess I have to take it off. Okay. Here. Corey?
Yes.
Eileen?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Me? Nikki?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Myrna?
Yes.
Right, those are approved. Right, thank you very much. Okay, administrative matters. Before we get into that, just a comment. Obviously, the Collins Center is not here tonight. So we are on our own. When we go through this, we're going to try to manage this in a way that we actually get to take votes on things. It may mean that we have some votes where we have some people who say yay and other people say nay, but we're going to just kind of go out there. But it could be that we all agree on something, which would be just amazing. Based on what happens, we'll go for a consensus. If we have a consensus of the group that agrees with something, then we we'll call that a preliminary decision, and then we'll move on from there. As we know, we can keep coming back in areas where we feel a need to do so, or where new information is available, but we need to keep this process moving. So
Just for clarification, we're not making any suggestions and any changes. We're just making recommendations to the select board to bring to town meeting.
yeah, let's just, what our charter is to come up, speaking of charters, to draft a charter, which will be proposed to the select board, which in turn they will comment on, and then it has to go to town meeting for approval. And then ultimately it'll go to the town to go on the ballot for approval. So our job is to make recommendations on things that we feel as a group would be important to put into a charter in terms of clarifications. If we feel that something is best served to stay a bylaw and not come into a charter, we should make that decision as well. What we do want to do, however, is make sure that if we're doing that, that we capture the topics that we are saying need attention in terms of a bylaw, so that we don't lose sight of those. So we're going to want to make sure that we have a running tally of those things as well.
I have a question, Bessie.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I wasn't here earlier, but so what you sent out the other day, the charter, is this a framework? Sort of a template or something that Collins used? Okay. And then we,
Yeah, an answer, yeah. This is a template, an initial template. What we, there are some things about that template that I think we're going to want to modify, like the table of contents and stuff like
Sure,
that.
sure.
So, but it's a starting place so that and then they have drafted language based on some of the decisions that they feel we have made in prior meetings when we were talking about the legislative.
Okay.
I want to make a comment to you on that. And going through the charter, I kind of went through the detail of this line by line, and I noticed that there are some errors in this where little things like calling it a district instead of precinct, for example, which we need to get the language cleaned up on. There are other areas where there apparently are conflicts. A good example of that is in one area where it says that the town meeting member can't be in an elected office, and then under elected office, it says that they can be, except for town meeting members who can be elected into an office. So there's an obvious conflict, and we need to get that straightened out. I do not tonight want to go through this for that kind of thing. I do, however, want to make sure we capture all of it. So as you went through it, if you noticed any things that were wrong, or whether it's a typo, whether it's a conflict, like this doesn't jive with what I think we're doing, I want you to send me an email, only to me, because open meeting law, we need to be very careful about that. Send me an email, and then I will incorporate, hi Bill, I will incorporate that into the one document and send it back to Collins, so that the next time we see this, those things will be either rectified, or Collins can bring it up to us and say, we're not sure what you want here, tell us what you want. Okay, does that sound like a okay approach?
Is there a way to have in one document what's new and what's old, what the original was and what's added and changed?
Yeah, at the moment,
It's difficult.
this is pretty much our first real draft. I mean, we had some preliminary ones, but I think we should consider this draft one. Okay,
But the draft one doesn't show
so this is,
what existed prior to that.
there is nothing,
There is nothing.
nothing. This is it. This is the first draft.
This is just.
I-
No, what was approved by the state legislature?
We
don't
never
have a
had a charter.
Yeah, but what was in our,
Right.
our,
Special acts.
our special act?
Yeah, well, we have that in other documents, so you can go back and check those.
That's on the charter.
That's not a charter. Those are the special acts. So some of those things are incorporated in here. So I went to the bylaws, looked at the bylaws, comparative things. So you guys need to do that, and then come back with areas where you think what is written. Now, really, it's what is written is either incorrect or doesn't capture the essence of the decision you think that we made, or if you think it's not consistent, like that town meeting thing, or you think should come back and discuss it again. So those are the kind of categories I'd like you to send so that I can see those, give that feedback back to the Collins Center. And then, rather than sitting and editing as a group, which doesn't seem to be very productive use of time. So if you can do that, I'll take the action to actually consolidate the input and put it, into a format, and get it back to them, and then we can go from there. Any other questions? Is it clear? Okay. And I would like it if you could get that to me. Our next meeting is in 2 weeks. So if you can get it, the sooner you can get it to me, that would be great, but maybe no later than next week at this time. I think it should be pretty easy. There's not much here. So
I
hopefully
presume that's an ongoing
we'll do this.
process
yeah.
because there's going to be updates and we're going to keep
Right.
finding.
Now, to Jack's point, I think we should ask the Collins Center when they change something that we need to have them indicate it's a change, either with a color or
Cross out or something.
a cross out or something. So we will make sure that they,
You can do it in the word so they can be a track changes
um,
system.
yep, track changes. So they, okay, however they want to do it, whatever they think is the best format to do it, but we want to just make sure changes are identified, right? And could somebody do me a favor, because I'm looking at you guys, I can't see the screen. So for you guys who are staring this way, if anybody on the screen has a question or raises their hand, could you just tell me, please?
We got you.
Thank you. The other thing I'd like to ask for is a volunteer to track where this will be an ongoing role, where we say we're going to make a bylaw recommendation. I want to just have a running list of what those things are that we said that we're going to track in terms of a bylaw recommendation.
Well, we're kind of doing that through our government
Takeaways.
really takeaways documents. So we'll just make sure we track both the bylaw
That's great.
and
Maybe once a month, give me a copy of it so I can just stay on top of it.
So a thing that I attempted to do early on was to maybe formalize, if we were going to make, there's things where we just say a comment, oh, this would be cool. Yes, we agree. That'd be cool. That's different from someone taking that, writing it into a piece of language that we can look at and say,
we're not going to write it for bylaw changes. That we're not going to write it in a piece of language. It would
we
be a
would-
part of our report.
right, but what are you going to put in the report?
Okay, so for example,
Okay, so I see more that.
I'm not saying you
Not
gotta write
write a bylaw.
law. I'm
Yeah,
saying
right,
you're
yeah.
codifying what we're saying, and then we all vote. Do we agree on
Collins
this? or not?
Center.
okay,
Collins Center.
what for now, all I would like is a list of things that we, as a group, say, we don't want to put that in the charter. We should put it in the bylaw or leave it in the bylaw, or we should put it in the bylaw and it should change. So let me give you an example. We talked about some of the committees, and there's a facilities committee, for example, and we said facilities committee doesn't really exist. We should make a recommendation that we eliminate that committee from the list of town meeting committees that is in the bylaws. So what would be listed would be eliminate facilities committee from the bylaw for town meeting things. It's just a general comment. We'll come back to it when we.
So
go
I'm
through
trying to
it.
discern the difference between people are talking and just thinking about ideas versus the committee is saying, yes, we want this to happen, where a vote happens and we say, hey, someone makes a motion that we should remove the name of committee.
Yeah, we have
And then
not
we say
gotten
do
to
that.
that point yet. We will get to it. So we're gonna have to use your judgment. And you
Okay,
guys
then
can
I'm going
talk.
to push for that when I think I see it happen.
That's fine. That's fine. I think for you to say, should we capture that on the list?
Good.
Absolutely legit.
All right.
Okay. I mean, takes a village here, so we can all work together on that. Okay, town survey update. And I had hoped that I was going to actually have an update about what the vote was from town meeting, but that's not going to be until tomorrow. So,
I had 13 more ballots that
Mhm.
I tallied.
oh,
I know you didn't want them, but
No.
they're from older people. I don't know how many older people actually.
I don't know because we didn't like.
I know that.
I'll take them. I'll
Okay.
take them.
I couldn't.
So that
I
was from
tried
the
to do
civic
it to
forum.
sense, so-
So this is a different thing. This is the town survey.
Yeah, that's from the Civic Expo.
No. That's what I'm talking about is the
Oh,
town-wide
okay.
survey. In terms of your Civic Expo, I'll definitely take it. I'll put it I'll incorporate those comments into the feedback. But that was a event-specific
Okay.
community input. This is about the town-wide survey. I am really excited that we have a subcommittee that has
Oh,
volunteered of Steve, Eileen, and Matt, who volunteered to be on that subcommittee. If
I volunteered.
okay, okay. And Myrna. Now these are going to be remote meetings, so I just want to make sure they're all Zoom.
Oh, delete.
Sure.
Okay, so you don't want to do it?
I don't promote.
Okay.
I would not mind.
Yeah, I think we're going to be, and we'll come back to this in a minute. And this is another one. So for February and March, Jess and I are both traveling out of pocket, only available remotely. And therefore, in talking to Patrick about all of this in the Collins Center, the recommendation is that we do all these meetings remote for February and March. Now, for you, Myrna, if you need it,
Find out
Hmm?
if I can do it. I'll do my
Patrick
checks.
said he would help you set things up
Oh,
so we can help enable that.
okay, thank you.
And which would be awesome because then, it gives you another opportunity to learn some technology, but also then you can fully participate because we really want you to do that.
Do you
But-
mean like Zoom? Like for
Zoom or,
Oh, I've done
or
it, but it was early on in the pandemic, so.
Zoom
That
and,
makes
and,
sense.
and
Okay.
these meetings are actually on,
WebEx,
WebEx.
which is terrible.
But it's okay if you're just logging on. I don't want to scare her.
It's all right.
Okay, so, but Patrick said he will help you set everything up. So if it's okay with all of you, we would like to propose that we do the meetings, remotely via WebEx during that time period. Do I need to vote on that?
Starting when, Bessie?
It's starting our next meeting.
Okay.
All right, we'll start our next meeting. Is there anybody opposed to doing that? Okay.
I hate remote meetings, no.
It's not my favorite either, but if we're going to participate, that's the only way it can happen. And,
Fine. We'll do it.
okay. Thank you.
Your hate has been noted in the official record.
It'll be captured in the meeting minute.
And I'm not a fan either, but that's good. It will help, however, in terms of the minute writing, because then we can use AI for minutes,
Yes.
which you cannot do when you are live. Okay, subcommittee updates. The stakeholder survey subcommittee is officially disbanded, so there is no update on that. We've done our job.
So I no longer exist.
Well, not until the next subcommittee.
You can only wish, Jim.
But Jess, you guys from the communication, anything you want to share?
Other than that, you had the Civic Expo booth. That was sort of an external thing, but
Yeah.
that wasn't us necessarily. But
Yeah, we did have a Civic Expo booth, which was actually, we had a lot of people. A lot of people come by, ask questions, fill out a survey, contrary to what people thought. We got people to complete the surveys. Anyway, I think we got some good feedback. I sent that out to everybody, so everybody should see that. So for our first public input session, I think that was a success. So that was great.
Yeah, most of our updates we did for the slides for the town meeting.
Yeah.
So,
And I have those.
and we're dependent on next steps based on the vote for town meeting too. So, with like getting some of the, if we're going to do like a direct mail piece to support survey, and what that looks like. So,
Right.
Did you send out that thing on the Civic Expo survey?
But, like 3 days after the survey, the expo. If you can't find it, just let me know. Send them all. Okay.
It's probably in that somewhere.
Okay, now, That's it. All right, now we're getting into the beef here. So, as I mentioned in my email, Jess and I met with the Collins Center. Because as you know, we're having some conversations about their scope of the project and also the progress we've made. And we are behind where we should be, which should not be a surprise to anybody, because I think it's taken us longer to get up to speed. And I think it's all very necessary, because none of us have done anything like this before, nor did we know anything about charters or any of the rest of it. And we're all still learning. So that's not a bad thing. It's just a reality that we're a little bit behind on the timeline. So what we want to do is try to tighten things up a little bit in terms of how we're running these meetings. It'll be a little bit of, we're going to try this and see if it works. And if it works, great. If not, we'll kind of flex on the fly to see how we can make sure we get through things. We want to make sure that we are thorough. But that we need to make decisions. The decisions we make, just as a reminder, are not forever decisions. These are decisions for now, and we will be coming back to each of these areas, whether it's legislative, executive, boards, committees, that kind of stuff. We will be coming back to those discussions. So if there's something that doesn't sit right after a fashion, we have a chance to go back and to tweak it, right? But we need to put a stake in the ground because we need to have enough for a draft of a charter to be created. And in order to do that, you need to make some of the decisions. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to start and Collins Center put together with our help some of the decision points that we need to make tonight. We're going to start off easy, and then we will complicate things as we go. We will be voting on each one of these things. And
handout is it?
this is the thing that I sent in the mail is
That one?
The memo.
the memo,
It's a 3-page.
January 21st memo from the Collins Center. What you should have as handouts is we have the benchmark data for these things, for our discussion, for each one of the votes. And then when we get to the when we get into the town administrator discussion, we're going to revert back to the presentation that they made last meeting, and there's copies of that for everybody. And we're going to use that as the discussion guide, just because there's a lot there. And I think we need to have something to kind of put some parameters around the discussions we're going to be having. Okay, any questions? When we get into these discussions, it may be that if we've already covered that ground, we're going to stop the discussion and then we may just bring it to a vote. If you are not comfortable with something, vote against it. If you feel like, okay, this is fine as is for now, then, just however it is you feel comfortable. We don't need to have 100% agreement. A consensus would be the majority of people would be agreeing with whatever it is we're proposing. So I'm assuming that many of these will have, there are 11 of us, we may have, 9 for, 2 against, or 2 for, 9 against. I mean, it could go that way too. So we just need to, I think, put a stake in the ground and vote. And I'll be doing a roll call vote, so Nikki can vote. Are you ready to jump in?
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Okay. So the first is renaming the Committee of Ways and Means to the Finance Committee. This came up and on the stakeholder survey that came up from people that we talked to. There is the benchmark information about that. And according to the benchmark, it was 1, 2, 3, 4 from, I'll call it the Finance Committee. We got a Warrant Committee and a Finance and Warrant Committee in terms of titling those groups. So is there any discussion, any questions, or should we just bring that to a vote?
When I first got involved in town stuff, it was Finance Committee. I don't really know when it changed or what. Do you, Bill?
No, it's always been Ways and Means.
Yeah.
I remember finance committee, the town meeting,
Right.
even open town meeting.
The
I
only
have no
question
idea why
I
it changed.
have regarding this is we had, Don Denizio in. We haven't invited the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. I mean, we're proposing, and there are other changes that are discussed that we haven't invited those chairs to
Mhm. I
participate.
think
the same way.
we do have feedback from the chair of Ways and Means on this. And the chair of Ways and Means prefers finance.
But that's just you talking to him. What I'm saying is,
Right. Well, we're not going to be able to have everybody come in for everything.
no, I know that, but there's some big ones that I think have
Well,
been
on
discussed.
big ones for sure.
And we might consider inviting the chairs to be there.
Just a comment on that is that this is not a forever decision. This is kind of saying what we know based on what benchmark towns do. We do have an indication of preference in terms of what we heard in the stakeholder survey. Yeah, and I did talk to the chair and, I guess that's a trust me test, but I encourage anybody who wants to have that conversation to do that. And what we're doing now is just trying to say, okay, knowing what you know now, do you think it's reasonable for us to vote for this to be changed from Ways and Means to Finance Committee? It doesn't mean it's forever. And if if later we decide we want to undo it, we can undo it.
This doesn't have them do anything any differently from what they're doing now.
No,
It's just.
Absolutely not. It's just a name, just a name.
For the ease of the people.
It's more understandable. One of the issues with Ways and Means is nobody understands what it means. So that there's a lot of confusion about what does this committee actually do. So if part of what we're trying to do is be clear in our communications of town government, for the residents' perspective, that's something that we should probably think about.
Can I add something, please?
Yeah, sure, please.
I just wanted to add that we're also trying to future-proof whatever it is that we're doing. So I think it's important to get a sense for what the chair of Ways and Means would prefer, just because that person is really familiar with that committee and how it functions. But also, our interest is transparency and making sure that whatever we're doing now is going to make sense for the long term, not, irrespective of who's in that office. So I just wanted to add that context.
How is the committee referred to in the bylaws? Isn't it already finance?
No, it's Ways and Means.
I thought I saw somewhere, maybe it's in the original document that outlines the select board, town administrator, like the Mass General.
In the draft.
No.
You're
The
talking the
original,
bylaws themselves.
not the bylaws, the original,
Special acts.
the special acts that it's referred to as a finance committee. I know I've seen that somewhere. I'll look it up.
Okay. I don't know.
I think it's statutorily called a finance committee, if I'm not mistaken, but our bylaws call it a Ways and Means Committee.
So, I'd like to take a vote on this. All right. So, so I guess the question is, do we favor a change to Finance Committee? Just so we're clear. Bill,
No.
Corey,
Yes.
Eileen,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Myrna.
Yes.
Let's see. Yes. Okay. That's 10-1. Okay, great. Thank you. We did one. Yay. We're on a roll, guys. We're on a roll.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. The second one, which we had discussed earlier, and I sent out some information to everybody on this, is on the referendum. If you look at vote 2, our friends at Collins have summarized this, and we also have the document which gives our, the benchmark towns and how they do it. The issue here is really around how easy or difficult should it be for people to overturn a decision of town meeting. That's really the issue at hand. Assuming, and I think we should talk about that. As you can see here, Burlington is 20% of registered voters must vote to reverse. And compared to four of the towns, although we have all the rest of them on the competitive thing, they didn't get onto this chart. But if you look at the referendum thresholds from what the Collins Center had sent out earlier, it's Dedham is 20% of voters participate in the election, 25% for Milford, Milton no threshold, Reading 20% of voters participate in the election, Walpole is 15% in favor of reversing the vote, and Winchester's 20% of the voters vote on the question. So it's kind of all over the place. Yeah, Myrna.
It's two different things. According to the 2024 election here in town, we had 8,955 people vote in the presidential election.
Yeah.
If you've got 20% of the registered voters to overturn something, that would be, who's good at math? 9,000 divided by 5. That's how many people you would need to change.
That's right.
20%.
We've got 18,000.
No,
registered
but
voters.
the next thing says 20% of eligible voters must participate.
Well, that's somebody else's. That's another.
No, I
town.
know that, but I'm just trying to say that what we have is a huge amount of people would have to be involved to change it.
Correct. That's the essence of the discussion that we had before about
I don't.
which Russ that we had put a really nice together as a summary, like these are the decision points that you need to make, which I sent out to everybody with the package of materials. So the question really is how difficult, like if you're saying 20% of the registered voters must vote to reverse. So you have, how many registered voters are there? There's what,
18,000
18,000.
someone.
20% of that is,
No. That's 7.
thank you. I can't. 7. Okay. So it means 7,000 people would need to vote to reverse it. Now I remember the discussion was, well, do people actually vote about these things? And we said, let's see what the school vote was, because here's an item where everybody was all, interested in, and they felt strongly enough that we had people vote, and we had
39,000, no, I meant 33,948.
for that vote.
Correct. That was mail-in ballots plus in person.
That was a total number of voting.
That
It
is
was
from
about
Jen Priest. Yeah.
Well, it was about 39% turnout.
It was 39% turnout.
And that was a
That's what
major
she said.
No,
outlier.
not 39% turnout. No.
Oh,
3,948 is not 39%.
Yeah,
That's
Russ.
19,000.
So the reason that I sat down and wrote a whole thing was because the language that we have is actually strange. It's almost, it's hard to parse. And even when you compare against the other towns, our language is much harder.
Yes.
Our language doesn't say currently about a number of percentage of the population that votes. It's hold on, I want to get this right. 20% of all eligible voters vote to reverse,
Right.
which is different from saying
Right.
20% of eligible voters took part in the election and 51% of that result meant to
Correct.
overturn.
Correct.
So it's a nice high threshold, but that was where it mattered. The other thing that I saw that was odd was our language says that any vote, whether a vote of town meeting is in the affirmative or in the negative, can be overridden. And many of the towns only speak of overriding an affirmative vote from the town. I don't know why that would matter.
I think ours says that it has to be written exactly the same way that it says that whatever vote is put on the ballot has to be written exactly the same way as what was presenting at a town meeting.
when reasonably possible.
So,
Yeah, there's some
Otherwise,
language on the
somebody
side.
involved.
The select board has a little bit of leeway on that, but I'm with you.
yeah, so
I'm
that
more wondering
one's-
whether do all warrant articles that come before town meeting, are they presented as an affirmative decision? You wouldn't have the town meeting vote to negative something.
Correct.
Okay, then I think it doesn't matter.
Yes.
So
okay.
forget I brought it up.
Okay.
But yeah.
So the question is, again, and your point is well taken, Russ, that the way ours is written today, and it was written there because I think the thought was at the time to make it onerous in order to change it, because town meeting members are voted in by the residents of the town, the citizens of the town, and that they should be speaking on behalf of their constituents. And when they vote, they should be voting in a way that is in the best interest of the constituents based on the information they have at hand, right? So I think that's the rationale behind it. I wasn't here at the time, but that's what my guess is. And then our debate was, is it too onerous? And should we make it easier to overturn town meeting? We had some people say, no, we shouldn't, because town meeting are the people who have been elected by the citizens of the town to represent their best interests. So that there should be a stop, kind of a way to catch that, but it shouldn't necessarily be easy.
Somewhere in the middle, right? Not too onerous, but not too easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and we did the math, and based on the high school vote, it was possible.
Without trying to get into the math and the weeds, but this is the key difference. Dedham, for example, says 20% of all eligible voters participate in the vote versus 20% of voters vote to reverse the vote.
Okay.
So it's the question is whether you're setting your minimum on the number of votes that were cast to override it versus did enough of a representation of the town show up to the election. Because the thing that, the use case we're looking at here is, let's say 52% of the votes cast vote in favor of overriding it. But let's say it was 19% of the vote total. 90% of the eligible voters showed up.
Yeah.
Is that a case? Do you want that? Do you want that will to carry? The town had the option to show up, but it didn't? Or do you want to say, no, unless you show up, unless enough people show up, we don't even want to consider it. That's really where the distinction is. Yeah.
I just want to note that for Dedham, that system in particular, where a certain amount have to vote in favor, where a certain amount have to participate, it would be in the interest of people against it to not participate, to increase the threshold at which the election will be valid. Unless they're like really, really sure that there's that much people coming in the first place. But the 36% turnout, I checked the results. It was 36% turnout for the high school election. That was an extreme
6% of registered voters.
registered voters, at least according to VCAT. That was like an extraordinary turnout for a local election here. And sure, like we could say we need extraordinary turnout to reverse town meeting. But I think if people are passionate, it should be easier. Like just because it really I'm wondering, is this like hypothetical? Like how often have people tried to overturn the results of town meetings before?
Never.
Not by that method.
35 years of participation.
But not by that method.
So
But
it,
if 36% showed up on a very big vote, that clearly that's a very high representation. Do we need 20%? That's can't even get the math right. If the vote was 51% in favor of whatever it was, then according to our language, the current language, that vote would not have been overturned because enough of the raw number didn't vote in favor. Whereas we just said 36% of voter turnout on anything is, high watermark.
yeah, I think if you take a look at what Reading did, which just gets to the essence of one of our discussions, which is 20% of the voters must cast ballots on the question. So I think that's one of the things that we were talking about before, as being maybe a good neutral ground.
Well, if 20% vote, that means 11% of the populace can overturn town meeting.
Yeah.
Or 10.1%.
Right.
Still quite a bit. I would suggest that to overturn it should not be easy to overturn town meeting, and I don't want to risk frivolous petitions to overturn town meeting because it costs the town money to run an election, a lot of money. If
There's a
if town
different
meeting-
portion where to initiate the override, there's a different like section about how soon after the vote and how many voters put in a petition. So that part, like the act of initiating this is a little different from how do you process the results.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my thinking is that if town meeting made a bad decision because they were given bad information, it's easy enough to either call a special town meeting or put a warrant on the next upcoming town meeting to correct a mistake of town meeting, as opposed to simply having a portion of the population disagreeing with town meeting.
So that is the other argument that, that we had about, when you make it too easy for town meetings. So,
I remember when we were discussing it, we deliberately held off waiting to see what
happened
town was going to do with the school
Yeah.
bond issue.
to see whether 20% was just not achievable. What we learned is 20% is easily achievable. If people feel passionate enough about an item, they will show up.
Turnout, yeah.
They will show up. So that is, I think.
But
then
Did
the lesson-
28, in this case, when the vote was no, right? When people voted no on the bond issue.
2/3 of 36% voted no.
It was 2/3 of 30. Someone math that.
We didn't
I'm
have
trying to-
36%.
We did.
Only 36 to the school?
Turnout.
7,100 ballots were casted.
Yeah.
No, they were not.
They were.
Yeah, there were.
I have this from.
I have it from BCAT.
I don't
have
care
my
what
computer.
that says, Jen Christian.
Okay, wait a
I
minute.
was there
Listen,
when they were asking the
yeah,
tallying.
I
down.
think
That's-
maybe there might be an error on what you've got there, Mara, because there are a lot of factual,
So it's
What does that say?
4861 divided by
Town election.
divided by 19.
2/3 of 36 and 24.
24.76% voted no.
So that was
Registered
how the
voters.
vote came in.
it's achievable.
Achievable.
There's 19,000 registered.
I would say unlikely.
Well, I think what we need to do is the data that we're getting is from what's published by the town.
Yeah.
As opposed to an individual. We have to go by what was published by the town as in terms of data. What was published by the town was what was on BCAT and has been public.
Well, I have it in print here that she sent it to me. Okay, but let's go on.
Okay. In any event, assuming that what has been published publicly to the town is correct, then from what Russ was just saying, it's, if you do the math, that what we have today is achievable.
24% of the people voted.
Yeah.
We could, in terms of to reverse, it is not an unachievable thing. So the question is, do we leave it as it is or not? That is the question.
Can I add a little bit of, I don't know, a wrench maybe? So I'm sitting here thinking about the numbers, and what occurs to me is that the 20% number is in a lot of different places. What we have experienced on average for voter turnout in our local elections is around 15%. The last couple of years notwithstanding, but the average is 15%. So what if we were to say that 30% of registered or eligible voters must vote in the election? That way, half of that is 15%, and that represents everybody that typically comes out and votes in a local election. That needs to be the threshold for approving. I apologize for my sidekick here. For approving or denying a referendum. Let me know if you need me to repeat that.
Well, okay, how is that not more onerous than what we have now?
So
Yes.
for what we have now, we say 20% of people must vote to overturn. 20% of registered voters or eligible voters must vote to overturn.
Yeah.
So if we said 30% must show up, then that essentially takes it down to 15% of registered voters must vote to overturn. If that's the way we're using numbers. I'm going to turn my video off because I'm getting irritated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I see the same issue as earlier where someone who is against reversing the vote could just not show up. And that would, I mean, I do think it would be more difficult with a 30% threshold of participation for that fact
Yeah.
that like it would become very viable for anyone against the reversal to just,
Boycott the vote.
yeah, exactly.
They think
How about this?
boycotting takes
Isn't that
a
okay?
great risk that you lose. the vote.
Let's try something. I want to just do a vote. The vote being keeping it the way it is. Okay, just to see where we are on that.
Well, I'll vote yes, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Okay.
We don't know if it's.
Well, I need to actually do a vote, so let's do
I'm
that.
saying.
I would vote to leave it the way it is.
Okay, hold on,
rather
wait.
than making it too much easier.
Referendum, okay, keep. Okay, Bill,
Yes, keep it.
Corey,
No.
Eileen,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Nikki,
I'm really conflicted. I will say keep it if that is what the majority of people want.
Steve,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Myrna.
Yes.
Let's see, yes. Okay, we got it. Okay, 10-1. All right, now on to the next. Oh my gosh. Okay, number 3. Yeah, 3 comes in 2 sections. Section A, which is structure, and section B, which is appointing authority. And we have recommendation from there. So the structure we have for select board based in, if you go to section 4.2.1 on the draft charter, so just to make sure that we're all looking at the same language. So you got a 4.2.1.
Releasing it out earlier.
Huh?
Could I have brought it?
There's a copy here for you. Close.
Okay.
Oh, no, of the. Yeah.
What's 4, 2, 1.
Okay, 4.2.1 says composition, term of office, there should be a select board. This isn't what we're proposing for the charter. Select board should have 5 members elected by vote of the registered voters of the town for 3-year overlapping terms so arranged that terms of not more than 2 members shall expire each year. So that is what they have put in the charter. If you go to the general bylaws, which is where right now it's written up,
So this is a 2-part question. Do we change it? And if we do or don't, put it in the charter.
I think it has to be in the charter.
Okay.
From my understanding, and looking at every town in our comparative group, everybody has the terms in their charter. So I think that is something that in charter.
Do they all have the term limits?
Yes, I believe they do. And some of them are 5 and some of them are, just looking for.
I think all 3. All 3. Looks like all 3.
Okay.
All 3, but it's a difference of 5 or 3 members. The only
Okay,
one with
5,
3 members
either.
is Milford.
Thank you.
What's these two?
So it looks like we are right on line with where we are today.
So the question
is
is,
there
do we
any-
want to keep it or change it?
Do we want to keep it or change it? Myrna?
No. Town clerk is now elected.
Yeah,
Yes.
but we're not, that's
That's
not
been
part of
all-
this.
No,
That's
that's not. I just.
That's not part of this discussion.
So what's the, what are we even discussing changing it?
What?
Just as a part of reviewing.
Yeah.
I don't think we're discussing changing it. We're just
Just.
saying, confirming, because we're going to put it in the charter now. So it'll be harder to change.
So what we're saying is that the structure, which will go in the charter, would be worded similar to this. In looking at Reading, and Winchester, who I think both of them have really good, easy to understand charters. They all say the same thing in terms of not having overlapping terms, so everybody doesn't leave the same year. And some of them are 5 members, 3-year terms, and they both had 5 members, 3-year terms. So if you take a look at, and as you can see from the benchmark information, so I'm thinking that is there any discussion about this, or do you think we're ready to vote on it?
Ready.
Okay, and the vote is to keep? Yes. Structure. To keep it as it
Betsy, are we
is.
doing number 3 on the memo?
Yeah, 3A, Nikki.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
Part. It's just authority on here.
Oh, okay,
Versus structure.
okay. Okay, so on the structure, it says section 4.1 of the draft charter, which we just looked at. 421, sorry, yeah. Is 5 members, each 3-year overlapping terms. So that's where we're voting to keep it as it is. And yes or
Just to
no?
clarify, it is the case now that is 5, we know it's 5 members over a 3-year term.
Yes.
That's the same question.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so let's vote. Bill,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Eileen,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Russ,
yes,
Jess,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Myrna,
Yes.
Betsy, yes. Okay. All right. Okey-doke. Which is appointing authority. So if you look at what they are proposing, is they're recommending consolidating those 2 sections. So if you look at 4.2.2, and there's a subsection 4. Okay. Which is to act or appoint other town officers when authorized by the town. Authorization must either be by vote of town meeting held at least 60 days prior to the annual town meeting, or petition 10% of the voters of the town filed with select board at least 60 days before the annual meeting. And then number 8 is to exercise general control over the following departments, boards, and officers of the town: Department of Public Works, Engineering Department, Police Department, Fire Department, Building Department, Sealer of Weights and Measures, Town Accountant, Town Council, Town Treasurer, Collector Department, and Dog Officer, and Pound, whatever.
For practical purposes, that's what's happening now.
Yeah, this is what was put in. Is this when the Collins took our bylaws basically and plopped them in there? So this is what we currently operate under the bylaws. I think if I were to speak for them, which is dangerous to do, and just should probably keep me honest on this, I think they are suggesting that we consolidate those and make them more general rather than listing each of the departments out in this particular part of the document, so that if those change over time, we don't have to worry about changing the charter. So I believe that is the rationale.
And this, the language is not otherwise specified by this charter or vote. That's the stuff, right?
Yeah,
That might, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is the charter going to specify that there are town meeting committees that are appointed someplace else?
yes.
Yeah. Yes, that's in under. I saw it someplace. Let's
Maybe in the back.
yes, yes.
So then we'll have, like, the moderator appointments have to be in the charter.
Right.
So there are standing
it's a-
committees that are appointed in section 213.
Yeah. It is identified, but not by specific,
That's fine.
other than Ways and Means. The rest are general, alluding to the moderators
Okay. Well, that's just
appointment of those. It's under 2-9.
okay.
So not to wordsmith it, but to exercise general control. So I saw general, what's that mean? Just funny, it's,
Where are you?
oh, sorry, 4228.
Okay, 2.
Well, the-
Oh, yeah.
The
So-
appointing is in 2-9, but the committee said.
To
that was
exercise
created in
general
213.
control.
Yeah, in 8,
That's all.
it says 8. So what they're suggesting is that we eliminate 8 and we eliminate 4. And
Oh,
we
eliminate it, okay.
Okay, we eliminate those 2 and
Gotcha.
consolidate them into one paragraph,
Okay,
which is what you're seeing here.
perfect, okay.
Okay?
Perfect.
So that, let me just make sure we're all understanding. So what they're suggesting is we take those 2, eliminate those, and then say the select board shall appoint a town administrator, or town manager, wherever we go with that, town accountant, town council, town treasurer collector, and members of appointed multiple member bodies as set forth by law or whose appointment authority is not otherwise specified by this charter or vote of the representative town meeting. I think we need to add the word bylaw after charter. I think it should be, because we were going to have things that will be in the bylaws.
Yeah.
So I think we need to add that word bylaw there. But
Is a bylaw the summation of the votes of the town meeting?
Yeah, so bylaw requires a vote at town meeting. I think it's just making it
I want to make,
clearer.
Right, so all votes of town meeting are not bylaws,
Correct.
but all bylaws are votes of town meeting. Got it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, so it's just making that clearer.
Is there any threshold of making a bylaw vote that's different than making a standard vote in town meeting? Like,
I mean,
like
it's
2/3 or
2/3
whatever.
Well, those bylaws,
It's a simple majority.
Okay,
Except for zoning, which is 2/3.
cool.
Okay, so does anybody else have anything else that they might want to consider in terms of what is being suggested here?
Can you read the language change you just
Okay,
would like to make?
sure. The select board shall appoint a town administrator, town accountant, town council, town treasurer collector, and members of appointed multiple member bodies as set forth by law or whose appointment authority is not otherwise specified by this charter, comma, bylaw, or vote of the representative town meeting.
So it might be not otherwise specified elsewhere in this charter.
Elsewhere in this charter or by this charter.
Then the standard attorney weasel words is if you have 2 potential areas of conflict with one of them, you say, anywhere that the contrary elsewhere fails.
Okay.
So, because if
Are
Okay.
you comfortable with? Are you comfortable with the language is not otherwise specified elsewhere in this charter, comma, bylaw, comma, or vote
Of the
of the
representative
representative town meeting?
So if you say, if not otherwise specified elsewhere, does that mean as it's specified elsewhere would override what's said there?
Well, there's other places where the charter automatically overrides anything else.
No, I'm talking within the charter itself. If you have 2 potential interpretations within the charter,
So this is for the general case where the specific case is not otherwise specified.
so when you say if not otherwise specified, then the otherwise specified overrules this should somebody try to interpret this. Correct.
Which is,
Right.
I think,
But
the
this
intent
is-
being when you talk about a specific body with a specific appointment power given somewhere else.
Yeah,
Then
in
it
other
is
words,
not
someone
select
can't take
board.
this language to undo something somewhere else.
Correct.
Would be my concern.
So where did we not? Elsewhere in?
I believe it is
Not
not
otherwise.
otherwise specified elsewhere in this charter.
Is not
comma.
otherwise specified elsewhere in the charter, comma, bylaw. Yeah.
Okay, so that's
So the change is
The
elsewhere
change.
in
and
and added bylaw.
Can I propose one more adoption here, which is in this charter, comma, or bylaw voted on by the representative town meeting or something?
No.
That's redundant. They all have to
You
be
want-
voted on.
So,
Yeah.
right, so when this, currently it says charter,
two different
comma,
ones.
bylaw, comma, or vote of the representative.
Yeah.
I presume we don't actually want the or vote of the representative.
No, we do.
Bylaw of the representative town meeting.
no, because it might not be a bylaw, it might be something
Oh, an
else.
existing bylaw.
No, it could be the example of, that we will have a subcommittee of the town representative town meeting, and we have somebody else appointing. the
It'll be
people on the
temporary
subcommittee.
committee then.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you don't want to link those together, Russ. That would maybe hamstring things. I think to make it more open, which is, I think, would work.
It's fine. I assumed that adding of the bylaws specifically to raise the bar, whatever, don't worry about it. Sounds
Okay,
great.
we're good.
I'm cool.
Okay, so is everybody clear on that language and
Yeah.
that we'd be voting on?
Yep.
All right, so the modified language on 5B,
I have it written down with changing the
okay? Okay, and,
Steve,
all right, Bill,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Eileen,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Russ,
yes.
Jess,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Myrna,
Yes.
Betsy, yes. Okay, 11-0.
We made 4 divisions in an hour.
Holy mackerel. Holy mackerel. Let's not,
Yeah, why don't you talk about it?
all right. That's select board. Now comes the fun. All righty. Now we're gonna move to this. We're gonna use this as a jump off point for our discussion.
I'm sorry, what do you?
This is the Collins Center. Okay.
I can also share. Someone's on the screen.
Yes, yes. I'd love.
Give some preferences.
There's a bunch right there, no pile.
Okay. Mark, I apologize that we don't have this
I'm
for you
gonna
to see.
share it on screen.
Okay, I guess we're gonna share it on screen. Okay, so,
And my phone needs to log out.
okay, I'm gonna, well, let me,
Sorry.
this is, they're the same, it's just he printed 2 on 1 page. He has 2 pages on the page.
Gotcha, okay.
I have 1 page on 1 page, is my vision is terrible. Okay. So, everybody, okay, so last time we were together with Collins Center, they ran through this with us. And, we had a lot of discussion on some of this stuff. And, but we weren't making any decisions. They were saying, these are just things you need to think about, as you go through this. What they're asking us to do in terms of voting here is to, go through the appointment authority of the town administrator. In looking at this, I think that's kind of hard to do unless we go through the process of understanding what responsibilities and stuff like that, and what we're going to call it, this job, until we get a better sense of responsibility. So the thought was that we'll just walk through this in order to kind of get the views that people have on these topics. Then where are we on time? 7:30. So, we have an hour to do this, to go through and make some decisions. Again, we're going to do it kind of like we have been in terms of discuss it, then take a vote. If everybody doesn't agree, that's kind of, that's okay. But the elements and the charter typically defines the following things, which we have here. Thank you, Jess. So these are the elements that the charter typically defines, and that's what we're going to be doing in the course of this discussion in terms of the town administrator, manager, whatever we end up calling it. For the moment, we'll call it town administrator for the lack of another term.
That's what it is now.
Okay. Now, this was also informed by the discussion that John Denizio had with us as well. And so I don't think I need to read this, but if we go to the next slide, this is kind of the supervision of functions in terms of the daily oversight of functions and services for the town. And, you know, where does it stop when there's a crisis? And what happens today is that there are, you know, formal oversight of certain groups and then informally oversight of staff that are part of elected boards, et cetera. And then the question, which is on the next page, is do we want to continue the informal structure, formalize the administrative oversight of functions and services, and bring certain departments under the formal administrator oversight? So this is the place where now we get to discuss. Thoughts? Anybody?
Yeah, I would be opposed to having the town administrator have control over staff of any of the independently elected boards.
Say more.
She did say more.
Say more.
Why?
So why?
Well, let's say your board, planning board, the town administrator who is with the select board, they are primarily financial, looking at the budget for the next year. Planning board looks 5, 10, 15 years out. So there is a different function, a different interest, a different focus of the two boards. So if the town administrator disagrees with the planning board and somehow controls the staff, they can then drive the planning board away from its prime function. I would disagree with that. Board of Health also does things which some businesses might not like. And if a business doesn't like it, it becomes possibly a tax revenue type thing. And so the key function of the Board of Health is in conflict with the primary function of the executive section. It's money, present revenue versus future revenue, long-term planning. And I just think there's a conflict there, and you need to have the different views at equal weight rather than have one of the departments have an overriding weight on those decisions.
Just can you answer the slide? Okay, that's one view. Anybody else want to comment?
I disagree.
I have to agree with John. There's a reason we have separate independent boards with separate independent authorities. And they should not all be under the control of one authority.
We're not talking about boards now. We're not talking about the
Yes,
board,
we
we're
are.
talking about staff.
Well, by dealing with their staff, you're dealing with the board. Especially by trying to include department heads. You're going to include the department head, planning board. I mean, the planning department, that would be the planning director. You're going to have him, planning director, appointed by the select board versus the planning board. No, but for sure, the individual boards have to have control of their own individual directors, or department heads, and by analogy, that department head should have some authority over who works on it. So I don't see a reason to slide all that underneath the town
So
administrator.
Bill, it doesn't preclude the town administrator from having any control or influence in hiring or working with the planning director. And I disagree, Jack, in terms of long term. I mean, I know these guys look at 3-year, 5-year, and 10 years out. And I think some healthy tension is a good thing. And I don't think it's going to spoil the works. In fact, I think, like I said, it's a healthy thing to give and take. And I don't know, hiring staff, for instance, for planning, even the head, I don't know why that is such a problem, because the town administrator is not going to be hiring someone that the planning board, for instance, doesn't want hired.
You're making a very
Yeah.
strong assumption there, which I think is false. The planning board is often in conflict with the select board. And if you give the select board an opportunity to hire their department head.
But-
I actually
First of
had
all,
to
we're
argue
talking-
this once.
I know.
When John Petron was the town administrator,
Yeah.
he tried to dictate to the planning board who we would hire as an assistant planning director.
Well, and I'm sure that made them bristle because they don't like to be dictated to. No board does.
Yeah, but he tried to tell us he had that authority, and we convinced him he did not.
I guess two things I'd like to throw in here. One is we're talking about not the select board, we're talking about the town administrator. And you can separate the town administrator in terms of their role from the select board.
Right,
But
you
to
can't-
Bill's point, I don't think.
No, you can't.
Well, no, there's some.
He works directly for the select board. If the select board wants to have influence over the planning board, they're going to be talking to the town administrator when there's an opening for the planning director. And
I
there's going to be
think there
influence.
are checks and balances that you can have
What
that,
are they?
okay, one would be, which, if you look at what some of the other towns have done on here, is that hiring has to have the town administrator, and keep in mind, HR reports to the town administrator. The town administrator has the authority to hire and fire only with the approval of the elected board. So you can have a check and balance where you can have the responsibility for doing it, like HR involved, looking at hiring or terminating. I see a big problem with allowing independent boards to run their own independent hiring and whatever in terms of liability for this town.
Why?
Why? Because one of the things that I learned when doing this interview thing was there was one situation where an elected board wanted to fire somebody, and they were going to fire somebody at the end of the day and called up to let HR know that they were going to fire them at the end of the day. It turns out that it was a union person, and they couldn't fire them because there's a union requirement for notification and all the rest of it, and it would have ended up with a lawsuit. There are also if you take a look at the laws in terms of how you post jobs, how you interview for jobs, how you consider different candidates. You need to have people who are professionals and know what they're doing. Elected boards are people who are in a subject area. We don't know what their background is. They may be professional business people. They may be builders. They could be, it could be anything, right? In any of these boards. But you have to have professionals who understand things like hiring and firing. There's a ton of liability that comes along with that. But I think you can set it up with safeguards, because I agree. I don't want the select board running the planning board. But I think you can set it up with some safeguards so that the planning board has the ultimate veto power over hiring and firing of employees and setting the work direction for those employees.
Two problems.
What?
If there's a policy and a manual put in place that all departments have to follow,
Mhm.
that allows planning or Board of Health, whatever,
Yeah.
there's a policy they have to follow. If you have the just veto power, that the person has to be nominated by the town administrator, and the independent board vetoes it, and the town administrator doesn't nominate another person, you have a position unfilled.
Well,
And to leave a position such as
if
planning
that-
director or
If that
the
were to
two
happen-
key professional positions on the Board of Health vacant, we're in deep trouble.
So my question is, we have all these boards, different boards.
Yeah.
Similar, structure. So you think the town administrator has better insight as to who to hire for the planning in the planning department than the planning director, who they are professionals in this field?
They would work collaboratively. You take a look at how does this work now? You have an HR department who's supposedly helping to recruit.
Yeah,
You put advertising out. You get candidates that are coming in. You have people like the director of the department that calls the people that they know in the industry and said, "Who do you know?" Who's blah blah blah. That all doesn't change. That does not change. Candidates come in. Candidates in a collaborative world would say that they're interviewed with a team, which actually I think they actually did with the communications officer person. You have a team of people who are interviewing this person, and then the decision as to who you hire is got to be approved by the town administrator and the planning board collaboratively. And the reason the town administrator, because you've got compensation stuff you need to work through, you've got work policy stuff. And in terms of the policy stuff, Jack, right now there's a policy manual for the whole town. And when we had COVID, there were whole groups of people who stayed home, and people next to them weren't allowed to stay home, and they had to come to work, and it caused a great amount of stress in the employee population. That's not right, because their board said it didn't matter if they followed the policies.
Some
that's
jobs can
not
be
right.
done remotely, some jobs can't.
Well, every department, I think the issue was that every department needed to have representation because it's a public serving thing. But the rules were different for different people in different departments. That is the downside of what's going on right now. So, and when you do that, you open yourself up from a liability perspective in terms of people not being treated the same, which some might say is because, I don't know, because they are tall. I don't know, pick your favorite HR problem. But there needs to be some level of, I think, consistent management.
We're currently treating professional positions different than union positions now.
So,
And I don't see that needing to change.
For me, I think I am in the position of the biggest thing we've heard consistently from people who are elected officials, who are professionals, who are residents, is this town government is operating extremely siloed.
Yeah.
So I've asked myself, why?
Extremely.
Extremely siloed.
Oh, yes.
So I've asked myself, why? Because we are organized in a silo. We are not operating as one town. We are not operating under one direction. Obviously, there absolutely needs to be those checks and balances that occur in terms of, yeah, there might be some perceived extra power in one way, but at the end of the day, there needs to be better forging of relationships. And the only way for that to happen is all operating under one goal, and that is to make the town better. Obviously, when you hire professional staff, as you would in corporate America, you are relying on their individual expertise. That would not be taken away. The power would not be taken away from, for example, the planning board. The idea would be, though, that the planning staff, for example, could be and would be an actual part of, and all these department heads would be officially a part of a team and expected to operate as a team, expected to show up and debate, expected to show up and justify why you should have certain positions, why you should get certain parts of the budget. I mean, this is a very standard method of running a business. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, our government, our town is a business.
I object to that particular characterization.
If you're trying to run it down like a business,
Exactly.
you're in deep trouble.
There's aspects that I agree with you deeply. Like, I want the same HR policy to every employee that I come across in the town. I don't know what department you're in. I don't know what structure you're in. Like, as a regular old citizen, I expect there's some thing that everyone's following. And to hear that that's not the case, or to hear that things are done right now by not by rule, but by convention, that's concerning to me right there. I do think there's legal things. That said, I don't ever want to, I personally don't think that a government should be a corporation. They're different. They have different purposes and lots of differences. Now, that said, we could certainly draw from that. We can draw from, hey, having silos probably is not great. Having different areas that are fighting amongst each other, and maybe certainly when budget time comes, I don't know how contentious it gets. I imagine it can get contentious. So,
No, both Bill and I have been on the Ways and Means. It's never been contentious.
okay. We did hear, at least from a little bit of discussion around the importance of making long-term planning, and how making the budget each year at least sounded like there was challenges to, because there wasn't central. I'm overcomplicating by including the budgeting part, where we're not really talking about that at the moment. So let me put that aside. In this case, we're talking about, I guess, just staff, or department heads and staff. I agree with, Bill and with Jack that, yeah, there's a reason that group was created independently. And that group was certainly there to help influence, maybe a more direct tie to the people's will. But I think there's probably some arrangement that could be come up with, some configuration where, okay, all the staff follow the same policies, all the same negotiation is happening, but at the same time, there's a strong influence from the board to help, maybe with hiring and firing, or maybe not firing, because that firing feels like, shouldn't people be able to get fired when something terrible happens? But anyway, I don't know. So I'm all over the place, but I see merit in both, and government is not a corporation.
I didn't say government was
If you-
corporation. I
if you
said
think of the
operating.
planning board.
All right, fair enough.
Jen, the clerk, is union. Liz and Caleb are professional. But I think the problem comes with hiring or getting the person. I think all should be subject to the same policy. And human HR should have some policy that everyone agrees to. But to dictate to Board of Health or planning or the assessors by the town administrator is wrong. There's something in there that says these people have to be residents of the town. Well, one of our assessors is not. So I don't think we should be dictating this person, because, that part.
We don't have anything that.
I thought I came across something in here that says they must be residents of the town, and I just like that.
Well, I get, there's probably 15 different angles that this is being talked about. Maybe we can pick one and pick at that. So in this case, the slide was, the town administrator having formal oversight of all departments and functions under select board control, or departments under control of other elected board officials. They should really have informal oversight and works with other elected boards to achieve results. So I guess the question is, what do we mean by oversight in this case? Is it all the thing? I mean, that's kind of probably talking about all the different aspects here. So that wasn't helpful.
Oh, Nikki has her hand up.
Yeah, Nikki, what?
Oh, no.
What you got?
Nikki?
I may be inarticulate at the moment, but I'm thinking about the difference between authority and policies and procedures. Like, Betsy, the issue that you mentioned about COVID makes me think that it was policies and procedures that were like not uniformly applied, rather than a problem with a board versus a town administrator supervising and evaluate. I could be wrong about that. But it seems to me that, and especially in light of the recent election where the town said we want to keep the town clerk an elected role, I think, a big part of that is influence, or the potential of influence, or the potential of appearance of influence by the select board if it were an appointed role. it makes me feel like Burlington sort of as a whole is not in favor of putting more things under the town administrator's control because the town administrator is appointed by the select board. And I just wonder if it comes out of this conversation that things stay the way they are and departments, elected boards are continue to be responsible for the departments, but the HR department has a more uniformly applied policies and procedures manual that everybody is subject to fairly, I guess. I don't know if that all made sense.
Yeah, I think that does. I think that probably, if you're talking about, it's not only human resource policies, there's also IT policies. I want to put those in
Yeah.
there at the same place because those are two equally important and all should apply to everybody across the board. So I'd like to make sure we add those two as being synonymous because that's, I think, critical. And maybe we can have some agreement on this one, is that all employees of the town need to comply with the human resource policies and technology policies of the town. I'm just going to say that.
What about
Can
budget
we-
finance policies, procurement policies?
Like, I want to start small. Let's start small. Would everybody agree with that statement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Jess, did you get that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so everybody agrees with that statement. Nikki, you agree with that statement?
Yes, I would probably add that, and I can't remember exactly how I was going to phrase it, so maybe I'll hold off on my addition. But yes,
Okay.
in substance, I agree with what you said.
Okay, so let's make that as that's an agreement number one.
To be
Okay,
explicit too, we're not just talking staff, all employees of the town, at
all employees,
levels.
all employees of the town. Just like
Even if they're like police chief or fire chief have a separate contract.
unless otherwise dictated by contract. Okay, let's put that in as a caveat.
Are you including schools?
No.
Well, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, thank you. No, none of what we talk about is schools, but thank you for asking the question because let's just make sure everybody's clear. Okay, so now let's build on that. Let's take, how about procurement and contracting?
We do have a simple supply system.
I
That was
don't-
initiated under Bob Mercier.
don't think it's working. I think that's what we
I don't
heard
think
from John.
individual departments order paper or.
There are certain
copies.
things like computers and stuff like that. I think that like the library's doing their own thing. And so I think we have some, but let's make a general, see if we can make a general statement about procurement and contracting.
Question though, are we saying the town administrator or town manager is responsible for procurement? So all procurement requests would go through that? Or are we saying just everybody must input through a specific system?
I'll say yes, just throw that out, because when you look at the language of all these other things, they all specifically say that, and our language
True,
also
yeah.
specifically says that. So
Okay.
it's listed as one of the responsibilities of the town.
Okay, so that would be that, just let's throw the.
Just to clarify the
There's one difference as far as procurement. A municipality have to procure first off the state list. There's certain
Right.
ways a municipality has to procure things as opposed to a private business.
Yeah.
So that makes us different right away.
So if you take a look at some of these, the language in pretty much all of these, comparator things. It talks about, I'm on, this guy. The one that we got in the last meeting where it's, okay, now we're on contracting and procurement. Yeah. So if you go to contracting and procurement, it's pretty much, the town administrative manager shall negotiate contracts, involving any, subject within, let's see, including contracts with town employees, not schools. It's like, that shall serve as the chief procurement officer responsible for purchasing supplies, materials, equipment for all departments and activities of the town. That's under Dedham. If you look at the second paragraph.
I had a note that I wrote to myself, and this is interesting to see how other towns do things, but without more detailed knowledge of another town, it's difficult to compare to Burlington.
I know, but if you take that language and say, will this apply? Will it apply for us? I think that's kind of what you do when you take a look at these things.
So we have responsible for the approval of, will we update that to say responsible for purchasing of?
I don't think you can talk about language specific yet because we're still up here.
I mean, responsible for purchasing. I think it's negotiating contracts and responsible for purchasing all supplies, materials, services, equipment, and award all contracts for all departments, boards, and agencies and activities in the town except the school and library materials. That's what Walpole has. I'm just kind of throwing something out there to kind of see, and if somebody else sees one that you think fits.
So the first paragraph, it says towards the middle there, and for all departments or agencies under the jurisdiction of the select board.
Right. So that's our language. It specifically gives authority to the town administrator only for the things on the select board, which is why we're in
Yes,
the feedback we have.
Yeah.
These other towns don't make that differentiation. Now, maybe they don't have.
but practically that isn't what's happening based on what John said.
Yeah.
For the most part, it's centralized.
Except for
Everybody.
parts of it aren't, because there are parts like the library who goes off and does their own thing.
Okay.
So just-
So here's our option, formalize the town administrator, town manager role in procuring contracting goods for all departments.
Yeah,
Or we want to maintain status quo, or we want to dictate only a few.
I would posit that we want to do it for all departments.
That would be my recommendation.
That would be my recommendation. Obviously, except it's schools.
For commonly used items that all departments use, I think we've centralized that already. That happened back at the Bombers here, I thought.
I'm not sure.
But
that
for
it's-
something that is extremely unique, something that only the Board of Health would use, now they may have to get a purchase order and run it through purchasing department, but the requisition from the requesting department can say, this is who we have decided to buy it from, in the specs of what we want. I think we should still leave things that are unique to a department to that department.
I don't know. I think that the chief procurement officer is gonna work with that department in terms of if they identify different groups that they want to do, but that's the person who's the negotiator, who's the one who knows how to get into contracts with people and knows how to do that stuff. So I guess I would argue that it needs to be, you need to have somebody who's got that responsibility. And I think the town administrator is that guy.
The department say, we want to buy an XYZ piece of equipment.
Mhm.
The purchasing agent will go out and say, okay, who provides the XYZ piece of equipment? They may find 3 different
Right.
providers, and they will solicit bids or prices from them, and then choose the one that's going to get the best deal, price, service, whatever. But the purchasing department should not change what the department says they need.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, which is what a procurement person does. I mean, I went through the process actually in Burlington when I did that survey. I mean, the study for downtown center. I had to get 3 quotes. That's what they said. We need 3 quotes.
That's pretty standard, 3 bid, 1 buy.
Yeah, for 25 years, I dealt with hospital purchasing agents, and I know what can go wrong for what a department wants, and if a purchasing agent tries to change it.
So,
I
so
didn't
That's
that I
is
didn't
your-
have that experience.
is your argument that there should remain, like, I don't know, inefficiencies or holes because of the potential circumstance that a procuring agent might change something versus the opposite of if there was a centralized procurement policy, what wouldn't everyone follow that policy? And if the policy is bad because it allows people to change the thing that the board is trying to buy, would that be a thing that's addressed with stop making a bad policy?
Two groups of products, something that everyone uses, copy paper. town has an agreement with one company for copy machines. That when it becomes standardized, the same, everyone can use the same thing. I think that is what everyone should use. But if something is unique to a department, they should have more say on what it is they want and who they want it from.
And they would, but it would still go through the process where the town administrator, town manager is making sure there's 3 bids.
Well, to be fair, it would ideally they would. There's nothing currently that would ensure
Right.
that's true either, right? If even as someone who's under the town administrator, some group wants to get a piece of equipment that's not copy paper and they want a particular thing, I would argue there currently is that case where they could go through this process, whatever that process looks like, and someone could make some decision. Or I don't know exactly the rules of that process, but
Buying something that requires support, you get it from the cheapest company who doesn't provide decent support. It may not be what the department wants. They want it from the company that's going to give them the support for that piece of equipment.
Okay. I guess, why don't we look at the language did we capture some language on this one, Jessica?
Well, we haven't made a decision of what we're
No, it's
voting
procurement.
on.
Okay,
we
that's
can't have language if we don't have any sense of what we want the
Yeah,
language to
like,
say.
are we voting on basically removing this being nuanced to select board and putting it against all departments?
Maybe just like we just said, all employees of the town should abide by HR policies and IT policies, which we didn't say, but it is implicit that those are actually formed by ultimately the town administrator and the people under the town administrator who form those policies. Is that true?
Well, I think I wanted to just kind of get us to the point where we all had agreement
Yeah.
on
Well,
that.
if you could say
concept.
all purchases will go through the purchasing department if we have such a thing.
But on this one, I feel like maybe we need to go back to that one, Russell, and say that, well, let's finish this one first, because I think we can go back to that one. But I think what we're saying that, and you may not agree with this, but I think what the straw man is that's being thrown out there is that all purchases and contracts must be as a responsibility of the town administrator. Right? Is that what we're saying?
But the town administrator delegates that to.
Well, that's still still their responsibility. If they may not physically do it, but it's their responsibility to do it. That's the statement. And is that the statement that we're,
I wrote that statement down.
Okay.
That's the statement you just said. I wrote it.
okay, so,
So if a department needs a piece of equipment, he could say, no, you're not going to get it.
No.
Even if it's put in their
No.
budget. Okay.
That's maybe a separate question. The question then would be, what are the established procurement policies and how straw man are we making the town administrator in this case to be? I've concocted the worst procurement policy possible, and I've made it the case that this is going to happen. Okay, that is possible in that case, right? But it might be reasonable to assume that there's a reasonable procurement policy that's put in place. And are there checks and balances if that's out of whack? Like, I don't know. That's a different thing.
So when a department establishes their budget with Ways and Means on the finance committee at the beginning of the budget year, and they put in X number of dollars for materials and supplies,
right,
they have to live within that budget.
right.
Mhm.
And they would put in,
But can they dictate where they get,
where do they get?
as long as they live within their budget, can the town administrator say, now, you don't want to get that even though it's within your budget?
I don't know the details of the procurement policies, but I would imagine there are lots of reasons that procurement may or may not be approved or disapproved. If you come to find out that there's a company that someone's been working with that now we learn is under investigation by something, I don't know, some kind of drama, one would imagine the town might say, we would prefer not to do business with that company anymore, and therefore we're not going to do that. We're going to do this other thing. I don't know, but I'm going to run under the assumption myself. I don't know whether you agree with this, but I'm like, there's probably a reasonable procurement policy that's established. In my mind, what matters is everyone should use the same policy. That's what I'm interested in.
Policy
And-
and process.
And to be clear, that policy is currently under the mandate of the town administrator and his subordinates or their subordinates. So by definition, it does mean that yes, you've created a scenario that is possible, but I think that's possible today as well, in theory.
So what we're saying is that the town administrator is responsible for the procuring and contracting of goods and services for the town of Berlin. And policies and whatever. I'm not sure. What
Which sounded like you took one of these that you liked. Which one was it?
No. I'm reading this slide.
Oh, which one?
I'm just contracting, like it's the theme, who is responsible for procuring and contracting goods and services for the town? And it says, or if we say currently, it says that town administrator purchases for departments and controls like or negotiates contracts, combines ordering with some departments as feasible. That's what's happening now. So it seems like what being proposed is that procuring and contracting of goods and services for the town and the
For the
policies
entire
that
town
follow,
except the school department.
except for school, is the authority of the town administrator.
Can you read that again?
Yeah.
I wrote down procuring and contracting for the town of Burlington and policies that follow should be the responsibility of the town administrator.
So the town administrator can tell the library department what books can they have on the shelf and what books they cannot have.
Oh, Jack,
No,
come on.
no,
I'm just trying to point out, hey, I'm an attorney. I try to find what's the worst case scenario that we need to guard against.
somebody here has.
Someone right now approves of the purchases that the library makes today,
Yes,
and that body can currently do the same thing.
the trustees.
Not
Is it only the trustees who approves every purchase?
You were just talking about books. I know that.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yes.
Well,
And I would say the books technically aren't for the
Everyone
department,
has
they're
them.
for the public.
Yep.
Okay.
And they were talking, and you had contracts in there too, right?
Procuring and
Procuring and
contracting.
contracting for the town of Burlington should be under the authority of the town administrator. Oh, and policies that follow should be under the authority of the town administrator / town manager. Do you want to take a vote?
Let's take a vote. That's the language. Just its language.
The chicken scratch, should you get it in the document too?
Okay, procurement. Okay,
This is not fun, and we can revisit it.
oh, yeah, we will definitely revisit. Bill,
Yeah, we have to revisit. This is a really hard one. I will say,
yeah, for
yes,
now,
for the moment. How's that?
okay,
Yes, but
yes,
Yes, but.
okay. Corey,
Yes.
Eileen,
Yes,
Matt,
yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Steve,
No.
Russ,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes, but
We'll highlight this.
Myrna,
no,
This is the tough nut.
let's see, yes.
So 9-2.
and you,
So we have
what are
1,
you voting?
2, yes,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
yeah, that's okay, so it's 9-2,
I just think there's some details
yeah.
that we have to work out, and we can make it work.
I think
Policies that follow.
it's like okay,
Should be
Steve, you wanna just give me a couple of sentences on the note?
I just feel like I need more. I don't feel like I have like enough understanding to say yes. This is a policy should apply. I think I need to dig in on it a little more.
Okay,
I was waiting.
so no, but,
It's
okay,
Well,
Can we-
I guess one of the questions I have, is just for like things that might be considered capital. Does this apply to that? Ways and Means typically sees something from each department that wants to spend money on a piece of software or a special piece of equipment or whatever, and it has to be justified, so it goes to them.
I think it goes to the town administrator before it goes to Ways and Means in the current process, doesn't it?
No, it does not.
So, no, you know,
I don't know. I'm not interested.
You didn't ask me why I voted no.
I will, but
Oh, well,
he was
I thought,
explaining something. Go ahead.
I need more examples of where there's friction or it's not working. I mean, I just find we're talking words and I have no idea of different departments, what works, so if they're happy, not happy. I mean, it's like,
if you look at a department's budget, you know, most of it's going to be salaries. But then there is materials and supplies, out-of-state travel, special equipment. There's a number of things.
no, I don't question that. I just don't know where there have been problems or why this is.
Why are we gonna change something if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
That's how I do.
Because of clarity.
Yeah, it's not clarified or consistent from all the feedback we've gotten.
Right,
So
right.
we're trying to decide what should be clear.
And things that work
What's
because of
happening
convention,
works, it's just
and
not
that's where
written
it's
down in
right.
detail.
Not getting,
Well,
not.
How do we take what's actually happening?
Okay.
I have a recommendation.
Yeah.
Reduce it to
Maybe
writing.
follow up for Collins Center is what I think general consensus I'm getting, and correct me if what I'm summarizing is incorrect, is that a follow-up needs to be scope options. Like what is the overall scope? So sure, procuring and contracting, but like one of the questions they have here is that just making sure it's legal compliance, or is that also that the requested scope of work is appropriate? Because I think those are questions. I don't know if we have to put those in the charter, or if that's something that floats outside the charter, and then that might impact somebody's scope.
Okay, we can certainly ask them that.
In other words, subject to state law. You've got to put that, you know, that's an assumption, but we need to put it in there.
Some have that mentioned explicitly on their language,
Yeah.
so see that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
how
I
would this
just
be
think-
written?
Huh?
I guess how would this be written?
Yeah, I
I think
mean, I
that's what
think
you're
if you
comparing
take
of like
a look,
these,
Yeah.
it's like 8 examples.
yeah, we have a number of examples of how it can be written because that's the way it's here.
But I think how it can be written is subservient to the intent.
Yeah.
What is the intent we want? And then we find the words to meet it. So it sounds like there was at least a consensus around putting it under some centralized, consistent policy with definite reservations around concern that policy is reasonable and that policy is
Yeah.
followed, right? So maybe there's something that the Collins Center can do to help buttress that part of it.
Right.
To say, how does another department or something exert their influence in a case where there is a conflict of some kind?
Mhm.
Well, is this an example of where we should be talking to the people who actually do the procuring?
Well, we kind of did some of it. We talked to John, who talked about it. We have
Yeah, but
talked to
John
each department.
delegated, that this process is delegated to somebody.
Why don't we, let's write up what we have here in terms of the questions we've got.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we need to go back to Collins. At the
Yeah.
same time, we can figure out, who maybe we might want to invite in on this to talk about some of these things that maybe are broken.
Yeah, Collins can tell us in a general way what other towns are doing.
Yeah.
But I think what we need to know is specifically how we're doing it.
There's a hole in my argument right there. I don't really know how we do it.
Okay, so let's do that in terms of,
Right.
yeah, okay, so we'll invite somebody in who knows how things are doing. That's on the procurement side. Or can speak to what's working and what's not on procurement side. I think that's,
Well, I think for the most part, it's working. We just don't know how to write it down and put it into a firm policy.
It might be perceived to be working, but we don't know if it's
Actually
good with
working.
legal
Yeah.
compliance.
Yeah.
Nikki, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I remember talking about this with John Denizio for quite a bit. So I think just going back and revisiting his responses to that would also be informative. It might not be the be all end all of the conversation, but at least I do remember him saying, like, you know, people generally follow the procurement process, and what I remember, I mean, it's been a bit, is that formalization and codifying what is done in general, I think, was really more of the concern rather than changing anything that's actually done. It's just like getting it in writing.
And who's responsible?
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing we're talking about, who's responsible for it, right? For that, and we're proposing what we proposed was that the town administrator is responsible for the procurement and contracting policies and the language that Jess wrote down,
When you say responsible, you mean procedurally?
is accountable for it. Is accountable for it.
Again, when you look at the language of these charters across the towns, they're not differentiating between procedure and like, no, they're being like, they're responsible for procurement and contracts.
Right.
So I don't think they're being that nuanced. Yep. Ultimately, that is the ultimate responsibility lies with them. Now, again, there's slight differences.
I would want to distinguish between buying routine supplies and contract, because your contract is binding the town as a whole. Where you're buying instances, your department, something
Yeah,
different.
and again, yeah, and it appears that if you look at what other towns do, they link those two together, procurement and contract. Yeah, that's a natural live together two things, so.
It may be overseen by the same person or department, but they're two, I think, distinct functions.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, they tend to be two different bullet points,
Yeah.
line items in the authorities granted to the different.
So we have some general language, we're just hung up on the detail underneath it with this, right? In terms of what we want to
How different people interpret the same language.
Yep. So we'll put that language to the Collins Center and then tell them that we would be discussing it further and we need more information about what the implications are. Which is what I think I'm hearing you guys say, right? And in terms of HR policies, again, the ones responsible for establishing HR policies, I already studied that one, the administrator, but responsible for policies.
What did you have for your wording for that?
All employees of the town must comply with HR and tech policies. We would have to add something in there under the authority of the town administrator unless otherwise dictated by contract.
Hold on, there's HR and tech policies.
Under the authority of,
Well, before you add it, let's stick with what we had first, which everyone voted against.
unless otherwise dictated by contract.
Which we added at the end because
Uh-huh.
Jen pointed out we needed that, so that is important.
Under
So-
the authority of UATM.
Oh, you have that was in it.
Well, that's what we're discussing is,
Feels like we're revisiting a statement. I don't know that I can
No, we're
read the
not.
statement perfectly.
Yeah, I think Jess has it, so let's just take what she had because she wrote it down at that point.
Does your statement mention? It doesn't need to mention, but I'm explicitly stating for the record, for us to be clear on it, that the HR and tech policies are in fact ultimately falling underneath the purview of the town administrators because they just making sure that so that same thing is sort of that hierarchy is clear.
Okay. So it's 8:30 almost. And we, I think, made a little bit of progress on this area.
Can I just ask that people read 3:20.3? I'll read it. State administrator, this is not the office of duties of town administrator. State administrator shall appoint or remove, subject to chapter 31 of the general laws. Against officers and employees under the jurisdiction of the select board, except at the public town treasurer, council, persons appointed by the administration to any statutory committee, legislation, must be a resident registered voter of the town of Building Code. As I understand that the
Administration. Anybody or so. So what, this is the kind of thing, send me a note and I will send that to the center when I said, let's.
I redlined a whole bunch of these things.
Good. Please, just begin us by what it is and what your issue is. And if I don't understand it, I'll call you. And you can explain it to me. Okay, so I think we through two things for the town administrator in terms of policies, HR and technology policies, and the procurement role for the town administrator. And that's,
Because the title of town manager, town administrator,
we're not going to get there tonight.
there's some cachet to being town manager, but
Yeah, I
you all look by duties.
that's exactly. I think we need to start with the duties on that.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense. So next meeting, we will have the Collins Center here. Counting on Mel being here because I think he's going to be here years from now. We'll probably fill up some blanks here. If he actually
Done it 5, 6 different times.
yeah, so he knows this area. We will be working with them to put together another decision guide. That meeting. Anthony Wilson. I don't know if you remember him.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
This may be forward. Very good. The Collins Center will ask them to I can ask them to lead the discussion so that we can get through some of this stuff. I'm pleased that we got through as much as we did today. Actually, we made the decisions. And again, yeah, I know this is all really hard and everybody's got, this stuff. And opinions are really important. So
When the current documents, I think it's more difficult to find unless you get two computers going. I don't know how they are.
or people are gonna, which is gonna be a challenge. I'm hoping that we don't have a whole lot more documents than what we've got now, because I think we all have the reference documents that
It will be in the next meeting.
will be covered in the next meeting. I hope that is true, because I'm not gonna have a way to print anything. But
I do want to say that it was good to have discussion tonight, because after sitting through these meetings, we discuss very little. It's like we're in a classroom and the professors are professing. And, no, I mean this. Seriously, this has been my constructive criticism to me of budget.
I think this is the first time we've got the various real required to be.
I was gonna say, the legislative stuff is pretty much like that's softball. And these things are discussions, really hard discussions, and there's, I don't, everybody has answered it, and I believe that people get also to the ideas to do that, people delay things, even if they're big, I have to look at the future, in terms of what is going to last, in terms of spiritual goal. And we really focus on that, which I think is great. That we're feeling that way, and thanks. ways of,
Maybe we make a recommendation.
yes.
It's still right, recommendations go without the meeting. The discussion was going to be.
Rewriting the constitution. You know, and, you know, we're gonna have, and we'll have, if we get closer to all of that, we'll have a lot of discussion about actually make this, break it down into manageable chunks so the town meeting and actually understand what's happening here and where the discussion points are, et cetera. And that's going to be, you know, we're going to have some meetings about how to make that work.
And ultimately, it's going to go to the voters, just have a chance of yes or no.
Right.
That's
Maybe-
the choice we got. They can't amend it.
Maybe we would need a special town.
That's obviously something we need to talk about. I know a number of
Yeah.
towns. That's exactly what they did in Reading, and I think they've done in other towns as well. Just making 100% focused on this topic. I don't know what we're
We
going
do it
to
on a Saturday, so you have the whole day to do it.
do. Well,
Dear God, not for our parents.
yeah, no,
But
no.
I hope that at least what comes out of this committee is a charter that's written and a report that explains the charter, what decisions reach, and other suggestions that we think go along with that. So it's a whole body of work that then.
I would
Yes,
encourage
more
you,
than
if you have it, to take a look at the report from NADA. If you
That
haven't,
was the original.
take a look at that. Not that we should, you know, it's just, I thought, for me, coming into this initially, I found that really helpful to see, here's what somebody else did, and this is what a report looks like, because I was like, holy cow, how do you encapsulate this in a report? But they really did, I think, a good job of summarizing things that maybe take us 2 meetings and it'll take a half a paragraph, you know, so. So anyhow, keep it up. Thanks for all the info. I know that we all feel, there are a lot of things that we all feel strongly about and some things we don't feel quite so strongly about. So that's things I don't know about. All of us. And I think that, you know, talking about the Collins Center, kind of doing a lot of talking. And I don't know if it's a problem so much as the fact that we're a bunch of people who come together on this topic. And none of us knew anything about the topic prior to coming into this. So there's been a lot of education, and there continues to be education that is necessary for us to actually make a educated but when we want to go with it. And there's no right or wrong way, just that's another contribution to all of this.
So I think it's a challenge. It's a twofold problem. If the committee's mission was just make a charter that takes everything as it is, but organizes it, that would be its own thing. On top of that, we have the mandate to make changes where appropriate. So that makes it a little more challenging.
And one of the things that we were asked to do was to consider town manager versus town administrator, and that's right on the list.
Big one.
Right? So you take a look at the list of things that we were asked to do. That's on the
Label, I think.
You have just got the whole reason this committee exists.
Oh, I don't know. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
I do.
I don't.
I don't either. It's as written in the
Right.
charter. Where do you get your authority from? The charter or the select board? I mean, I think that's the
We should
distinction
go
too.
with charter or bylaws.
Yes.
Okay.
I make a
You say
motion to adjourn.
Okay.
So moved.
Anybody against it? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we will adjourn. It is now
That's it. Where are they
8:34.
going?